Live from Washington, this is BBC News. US officials are struggling to identify who leaked documents including details of Ukraine's air defences. A funeral is held for two sisters shot dead in the midst of soaring Israeli-Palestinian tensions. And delegations from Saudi Arabia and Oman are in Yemen for talks with Houthi rebels amid hopes of a ceasefire after 8 years of war. I'm Helena Humphrey. Good to have you with us. We start here in the United States, where security officials are still investigating the source of the leaks that resulted in highly classified documents being released on the internet. In the last hour, the Pentagon says that they're looking at the impact those leaks could have on US national security and that a criminal investigation has been opened. Well, the BBC's Carl Nassman is here with more. Carl, what exactly is the Pentagon saying? Well, around the world and across the UK, this is BBC News.
It's become a familiar sight as vaping has grown hugely in recent years, and the latest national figures are worrying communities and schools everywhere. With 9% of 11 to 15-year-olds currently using e-cigarettes, an increase from 6% in 2018. For the past few months, an educational pilot scheme has been underway in Liskeard.
I knew it had nicotine in it, I just didn't realise how dangerous nicotine in itself was. You can get really addicted to it, and then people think it's going to help you with your stress, but actually it makes you more stressful.
The clear messaging needs to go out that vaping is a really useful tool for adults to use to quit smoking. However, it's not okay for young people to vape.
Critics say children are being drawn in with bright packaging and exotic flavours. It's hoped the Liskeard pilot can be rolled out to other Cornish schools and communities, while the government says it's introduced regulations to protect children through restricting sales and advertising.
You're live with BBC News. A boat carrying 400 people is feared to be at risk of sinking in the Mediterranean. Charities say that the captain has left the boat and is now adrift and taking on water. Well, the boat left a port in Libya and is currently off the coast of Malta. That's according to Alarm Phone, a hotline for boats in distress. Will Grant, our Mexico correspondent, thank you so much for your reporting. Stay with us here on BBC News. I'm Helena Humphrey. I'll see you soon.
I think we can use a form of capitalism and continue to get its benefits while solving climate change.
We should remember that the globalization we had before brought more than 1 billion people out of poverty.
I always associated fashion with fun and joy.
Women ourselves are finding our power. We always had a voice. We just weren't allowed to use it.
When big names talk, they talk to the BBC.
Live from Washington, this is BBC News. US officials are struggling to identify who leaked documents including details of Ukraine's air defences. Delegations from Saudi Arabia and Oman are in Yemen for talks with Houthi rebels amid hopes of a ceasefire after 8 years of war. BBC protests after Twitter labels it government-funded media. And a comfy carriage fit for King Charles at his coronation, and it even includes air conditioning. I'm Helena Humphrey. Good to have you with us. We start here in the US, where the Justice Department is investigating the leaking of dozens of leaked intelligence documents which surfaced on social media a few days ago. Now, some officials have suggested the topics point to an American source, but they're not ruling out the possibility that pro-Russian activists or agents might be involved. Well, the BBC's Carl Nassman is here in the studio for more on this. Carl, what exactly is the Pentagon saying here? Around the world and across the UK, this is BBC News.
So I'm going to start here with you.
A student-led wellbeing workshop at this secondary school in Abergavenny. Here, being open about mental health and supporting pupil wellbeing is a key focus, especially since the pandemic. A national school survey of 11 to 16-year-olds found girls were almost twice as likely as boys to experience high levels of mental health symptoms.
Spending too much time on my phone, but also it doesn't have to be on screens. I find that I am impacted when I spend lots of time just not doing anything.
The survey, which is carried out every 2 years, found that between 2017 and 2021, fewer teenagers said they were exercising regularly. There was an increase in the amount who said they were looking at screens before going to bed. And when it comes to diet, fewer said they ate breakfast on weekdays before school. It's hoped the findings of the latest survey will continue to influence changes in communities across Wales.
You're live with BBC News. The BBC is objecting to a new label describing it as government-funded media on one of its main Twitter accounts. The corporation says it's speaking to the social media company about the designation on the BBC account to resolve this issue as soon as possible. Elon Musk, Twitter's owner, has responded saying, "What does BBC stand for again?" But then went on to say he follows the BBC and it has some great material. We can go live now to technology journalist Takara Small. Takara, thank you so much for being with us. Just to begin with, what does the designation government-funded mean exactly? And do we know why the BBC's been given it? Well, I'm sure, Autumn, that your friends in London will be sending you some of those souvenirs when they see them from London to Washington. Autumn Brewington, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Stay with us here on BBC News. I'm Helena Humphrey. Thanks for your company. Live from Washington, this is BBC News. US officials are struggling to identify who leaked documents, including details of Ukraine's air defences. French President Emmanuel Macron weighs in on the escalating tensions between China and the US. And delegations from Saudi Arabia and Oman are in Yemen for talks with Houthi rebels amid hopes of a ceasefire after 8 years of war. I'm Helena Humphrey. It's good to have you with us. We start here in the United States, where the Justice Department is investigating the leaking of dozens of leaked intelligence documents which surfaced on social media a few days ago. Now, some officials have suggested the topics point to an American source, but they're not ruling out the possibility that pro-Russian activists or agents might be involved. I'm joined here in the studio by the BBC's Carl Nassman. Carl, what exactly is the Pentagon saying about these documents?
Well, these documents, they've been out there for a few days now online and on social media, but
all right, Cindy Sue, we are just out of time, but great to hear from you. Cindy, a journalist covering Greater China, a former BBC correspondent as well. Well, around the world and across the UK, this is BBC News.
Lyrics and ideas. This group of care leavers are creating a music track.
dreaming, scheming the next time I leave, here streaming, trying to redeem my self-esteem. Part of a team, I'm so fed up of feeling.
Yeah, it's a way of releasing your trauma, or your thoughts, or your feelings, or your nightmares, or even your dreams, aspirations.
You understand that music don't leave you. Everyone else does, but music don't. That stays with you.
They have that shared experience of life in the care system, and they're putting it to music. The album is yet to be completed, but the project has already received a national award.
Very good, because you're experiencing yourself that you've actually come this far. Some people don't know how far they've actually came.
They're such a great group of young people, and they just go beyond my expectations every time I meet them.
The album should be finished later on this year.
You're live with BBC News. Now to Yemen, where delegations from Saudi Arabia and Oman are holding peace talks with Yemen's Houthi rebels aimed at reaching a ceasefire there. Now, the talks are happening in the country's capital, Sana'a, which is controlled by the Houthis. This isn't the first ceasefire attempt, but it is significant, as the BBC's Sebastian Usher now explains. You're watching BBC News. Remember, there's always plenty more on our website, bbc.com. I'm Helena Humphrey. Thanks for your company. I'll see you soon. Bye for now.
Hello there. Across Europe, substantial warm spell across Spain and Portugal at the moment.